Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Vallen, and this is Pathfinder Adventures. This was a game that was gifted to me via Asmodee Digital and Obsidian Entertainment. And I'll be playing this free sample for you guys here. And I have actually played this before, but not in a digital format. I've played this in a tabletop RPG setting, as well as a tabletop board game. So I am somewhat familiar with this, and it is very similar to the tabletop board game version, with very, very minor exceptions. So I'm going to start this off. We're going to do the Rise of the Runelords campaign here. There are multiples that you can choose from. And yes, you can buy things in here in the game. You can also play multiplayer. And it's not versus, it's you versus the table. So it's you versus like an enemy AI or the enemy's start deck. So it's not too bad. We're going to be doing the Perils of the Lost Coast adventure, Brigand Doom, which there's many to choose from. You can actually create parties here. I already have one that I've pre-generated of a few characters, and we're going to be doing Brigand Doom because, well, the other chapters have not been unlocked as of yet. You have to progress through here. This is a tabletop style card game of sorts, but it has role-playing elements to it. It can be very interesting and so on. And there are different things. In this, the ultimate objective is going to be to defeat a villain. In this case, it's Jabrail Visky. And he has several henchmen at multiple locations that we'll have to defeat in order to prevent him from escaping. And in here, there are special circumstances. If a monster's power causes you to recharge one or more cards, which I will explain how to do that, do so. Then draw the same number of cards you recharged, which is, that's actually great. That's great news. So I'm alright with that. And there is a reward. At the end, each character receives a random item, which is very nice, and an adventure reward if you complete the entire adventure, because right now this is a scenario. All three are an adventure. And if you complete all three, your characters will gain a skill feat. And I've chosen 3 characters to go with. The more you can actually play with 1, you can play with 2, 3, etc. And the more characters you have, the more locations that are available to run through. So it's actually a shorter game or a longer game, depending on the number of characters. But we're just going to click start here. And we're going to get in on this. And it's got a little bit of story if you wanted to kind of role play it out a little bit. Like here, Mariciel is one of the characters that I have in my party. Sandpoint, well, I've been in worse places. And we continue on. On the upside, easy money can often be made in these backwater holes. Harsk is another one of my party members here who I've added in. He's a dwarven ranger. Mariciel was an elf, an elven rogue. But Harsk here says, too many walls for me. At least the wilds of the Lost Coast aren't far. Venvinder. This is just some random NPC. He's not part of my group, so don't worry about that. You there, you look equipped to enable. I can't get a supply shipment past the waterfront these days. That brigand Jabrail Visky and his thugs are robbing honest folk in the streets. Our incompetent sheriff can't seem to do a thing about it. Mariciel says, assuming you have the coin, happy to do business with you. If I get to bloody my daggers, all the better. Funny thing is, I edited her play deck because I went through the tutorial just to make sure I was up on this game again, and I switched out her daggers for short bows. So you'll need my sharp eyes and steady hand to flush him out. Count me in. All right. I actually have a third character that was not shown there, and I will introduce you to her as well. During this scenario, if a monster's power causes you to recharge one or more cards, as so listed before, then draw the same number of cards you recharged. I'm just going to click continue in this case, and here's the villain, Jabrail Visky. And there's lots of information on here. Just know that he's the ultimate guy that we're going to have to defeat. For now, though, we're not going to go over too much of all this stuff on here. But you can see it does say right there, villain. And it also says that he's a human rogue, which is very, interesting because, well, he's not some kind of undead monster or anything. He's just one of the people in the area. We're going to continue on, and he's got a whole bunch of bandits. They're all veterans and humans and so on, and they have their own special abilities and so on as well. Our characters do too, and they have a challenge rating of 8 for each one that we encounter, as well as Jabrail had that 10 rating. Now we have multiple locations. Because I'm playing with 3 characters, it has opened up to 5 areas. Now the villain and henchman there's going to be one of those at each of these locations. And we need to actually close or complete and defeat either a henchman or Jabrail Visky in the case, at each location in order to close that spot permanently. If there are open locations when we find the end villain, he will escape. Regardless of us defeating him, he will have been able to obtain an escape route and gotten off to another area if we have not closed it. So there is kind of you have to kind of close in on him. You can't just find him on the first round, defeat him and win. There is a certain element of kind of exploring and fighting and searching and trying to get through things. Now in this case we've got 5 locations, as I said, 3 heroes. We have, of course, right now the woods location, and we've got all these different icons over on the side. In this location, there's a deck of cards, and they're all randomly piled in here, and we'll have to explore through them one at a time. Of those cards, 4 of them are monsters. 2 of them are barriers of some sort, which could be good, could be bad. Most of the time it's bad. And by barrier, I mean like a locked door, or perhaps a treasure chest, or even a pit trap. Then you've got weapons that may be found here. You've got magical spells may be found, armor, items, associates or friends, helpers that might join you temporarily, as well as blessings, and maybe even unknown cards too, which is probably going to be something like a bandit or the villain himself, Jabrail Visky. Now, at this location, undefeated monsters, other than the villains or henchmen, are banished. And what banished means is that the cards are removed from this entire scenario. They don't come back. So that's not to worry about at that point. That's actually a really good thing, even if they're undefeated. But they can be undefeated because there's a character like this one here. Marisiel has an ability allowing her to evade an encounter. That monster is undefeated, but it would therefore be banished nonetheless. So therefore it would be out of our way and she'd be able to escape. When closing this location, and the only way to do that is to either run all the cards down or succeed at defeating a henchman or even Jabrail. And we would then also have to pass a wisdom or survival check 6, which I'll get into those once we actually start exploring it. When permanently closed, there's no special effects. Sometimes when you close something, you'll get a benefit or a negative, but in this case, it's nothing there. But Brigand Doom, if a monster's power causes you, and this is the ongoing thing for this entire scenario, the whole recharge thing. Now, we can actually go to each different location, and they'll have their different stats at the top, so you know basically the kind of things that you're going to be running into. A whole lot of items, a few monsters, a barrier, and a weapon. Over here, you're going to get a lot of magics. Ooh, lots of magical abilities. And this character here is actually a paladin, and she has some magical abilities. This guy here is a ranger. He's mostly into combat, and she's mostly into combat and barrier elimination as well as evasion. She's kind of a multi-purpose combatant. I didn't really choose any heavy magic users in this case, but I think the paladin's probably going to be our closest one. And then, of course, you go over here, and we've got a lot of just barriers and monsters, and they have to summon and defeat a bandit henchman when closing. And actually, that one sounds pretty good. I might actually have her go there, but at this point, we're supposed to try and pick where our party goes. We can take a look at our party. Marisiel, the female elf rogue here, she has special skills that we're looking at, like she gets a D8 to pass any strength skills. Dexterity, she gets a D12 because she's, well, a very talented, dexterous woman. And she has other abilities on top of that will just give her a flat-out bonus. Then she's got her Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. Each of the characters are going to have these 6 in skills. And they may have extra bonuses on them depending upon their abilities. If I click on Harsk, you can see his are very different. He's got a very high constitution. And then he's got kind of average other skills with a decent dexterity as well. Then we've got, of course, Sela, the one that I haven't introduced you to yet. She's a human paladin, and basically is kind of a combatant as well as a cleric at the same time. Very, very capable character. Now, if we go back to here, we can see that Mauricio also has some special powers. She has a hand size default of 5. Later on, I might be able to, if we defeat this entire adventure, which I'm not going to do today, we might be able to get that up to 6, or change her increase her proficiencies. Right now, she can only wear light armor. She has an ability to hide, allowing her to evade most encounters. And she has a sneak attack ability that means that she works best when alone at a location. You can split your party up or group them all together. And in most scenarios, it's actually going to be better to split them up. Divide and conquer is going to be much more effective than grouping your team together, unless you have specific characters grouping up their abilities. Now, if I go over to Harsk, he's going to have some similar stuff, but something else. Scout ahead. At the end of your turn, you may examine the top card of your location deck. So he gets to see what the next card is before it's drawn, and therefore can better prepare. Perhaps it's something that he would not be able to normally defeat, and therefore would move off to another location instead, and another character moves in to take care of it. Sniper's Shot. You may recharge a card to add 1d4 to a combat check at another location. This means that he can actually take one of his existing cards, put it into his existing pile of other cards that is not being used at the moment, and start doing damage on someone else's location. So if Sela is fighting a monster, he can therefore help by benefiting, shooting over at one of her monsters or something. And then, of course, we've got Sela with Crusade. You may examine the top card of your location deck at the start of your turn. If it is a boon, put it on the bottom of the deck. Which can be good, can be bad. Either way, she gets a peek. Inspired Grace. You may discard the top card of your deck to add 1d6 to your check. If the top card was a blessing, recharge it instead of discarding it. And what that means is discarding it's, well, I'll explain once we get into the character screen a lot more on the cards and abilities. But therefore, you can see that each of the characters have some special stuff distinguishing them from each other. Not just their stats, but they also have some special abilities. So let's take a look here. We've got the Farmhouse. Summon and defeat a random monster. That sounds pretty basic here. Succeeded a Wisdom or Survival 6 check. And you know what? I'm going to take Sela here and put her there because she's really good with Wisdom. The other two characters are average at Survival. Let's see, we go over here. Succeeded a Dexterity or Stealth check. Well, hey, the most dexterous character in the party is going to go there. Then we've got Summon and defeat a random monster. Succeeded an Intelligence or Arcane check. Summon and defeat a Bandit henchman. You know what? Let's just go with a random monster for now at the Farmhouse. We're going to drop Harsk there. And then we're going to continue on. And we can change our party order at the beginning. Right now, I'm perfectly fine with how these characters are set up. I would like to have the Paladin going last because she may have potentially blessings that can help out the rest of the party quite a bit. And this is Sandpoint. Just like a little kind of immersive little picture there. The overall map. It actually matches up with the role-playing game that I've played before, so that's kind of a fun thing there. And this is the first location, the wooden bridge, as you remember, with all these different cards in this pile up here. Now, our character, if we want to, we can still click on Mauricio here and check out her stats and information. She has her abilities to hide and sneak attack, and she is alone at her current location. She also has some single-use items that can turn the tide of a scenario. And if they have special abilities at other locations that can help, their character icons up here might have an exclamation mark. Now, if you look over here, she has a hand size of 5, which means she can have 5 abilities out at a time. And that combined with her deck size is her total amount of hit points. If her deck ever runs to 0 and she is forced to draw one more card, she dies. So therefore that is kind of her hit point pool. All of her abilities and cards, if you run through them too quickly, can be very detrimental. Now that's not all. That does apply to each individual adventurer, but there's also a blessings deck up here. And you have 29 rounds in order to find and defeat Jabrail Visky in this case. And each time that one of these comes up, the current blessing may be something that might match what you have in your hand and might give you extra benefits. Or your characters might have special abilities in order to do so, specifically like that Paladin that we have. Now, if you look over here at this location, there are special effects going on. And, of course, you may discard 2 cards to evade an encounter. Or, in this case, I can just evade automatically because of her special abilities as it is. When closing, succeeded a dexterity or stealth check 6. Now if we look at her real quick, she's got a D12 and stealth +2, so that's already a pretty good. She's got a guaranteed 3 or better, so I think she's going to be a little overqualified for this, but it should be good. Now, if you notice here, when permanently closed, that means we've gotten through this entire deck of cards here, or we've defeated a bandit or the main villain at this location successfully. When you end your turn here, you may bury a card from your hand to recharge a card from your discard pile. Now, before I mentioned that there are differences with recharging and burying, and in this case, we've got discarding. So recharging means that if I were to take something like this, and if it had an ability that would allow me to recharge it, I don't know that any of these actually do. This one here just says reveal. This means I just have to show it. If something says recharge, that means that it goes back into my hit point pool deck. So therefore, it's not actually a loss to me. If something says discard, that means I'm hurt. It's used up in the process, and it goes over here to the discard deck, which we get back at the end of this little scenario. Now, if it's buried, it's going to be pulled out of the scenario. I can't get it back from the discard deck either. And if it's banished, then it basically goes back into the box. You don't even get to use it unless you start the entire adventure over again. So some of the items are regularly like that. Like items, healing potions or something like that. You just use it once and it's completely gone. You may be able to perhaps get it back in the scenario later on or find it at another location, but it's just something that could happen. Now let's start off with her exploring this location. We're going to click here. Oh, and straight away we've got a goblin warrior, and it is currently saying that there's a Bane is evaded in the shuffled into the location deck it came from. And yes, after you may discard a blessing or an ally to explore again. And I do have a little bit of the tutorial still active, but right now, the first exploring the first one, we ran into a goblin warrior, and she started off drawing these random cards in her deck of cards, which actually you can see all of the cards she has here. You can actually choose and pick them to some extent, depending if you have found any in previous scenarios and so on. As I said before, she has a couple of short bows that she obtained by going through the tutorial. And I used to replace a dagger and I think a short sword. These just were so much better, especially with her dexterity. And this is my die. Currently, at most, I can do 8. And I have to defeat this guy's 9 ability. And if he is undefeated, I have to bury a random item or weapon from my discard pile. I don't have anything in my discard pile yet, but I might before I defeat him. So let's see. What do I have for weapons? Caltrops. If I banish this card to evade a monster of 14 or lower, and that would work, but I also have my own evade ability. I also have my sneak attack ability, so I can add in a D6 because I am alone here at this location. Or I could banish this card to defeat a monster you encounter whose highest difficulty to defeat is 9 or lower. Hey, look at that. We're actually going to banish this, and we're going to try and defeat this guy just automatically. Defeat. And that should take care of this guy here. And it'll say right here, usually we would roll or something like that, roll success 0%, but instead, we just hit go. If you defeat a monster barrier, it will be banished, will no longer appear in this scenario. Continue. And that's pretty much it for her first turn. They seem very simple and straightforward. I can use a Blessing of the Gods and discard this in order to continue searching. But I feel that I could really benefit. It's a little early for me to just continue on like that. Each time that I could use one of these blessings without using one of the same kind, I could add a die to one of my damage attacks as well. So I think, I've got 3 of them. These could be of benefit to the other characters more so, though, because if you look here on the Blessing of the Gods, discard this card to add 1 die to any check, and that can apply to the other characters. So let's go on over here and just finish off her turn. She got another blessing, so it's likely that she'll be able to help other characters a lot more than herself. And we're over with Harsk at the farm. Here, when an ally would be discarded, it is buried instead. He has an ally. So this one here would not be discarded. It would be buried, which means I wouldn't be able to use it anymore in this scenario. which could be bad. Could be bad. It's not necessarily that bad, but when closing this location, you summon and defeat a random monster, and there's no special effect when you do. But this guy here is just going to be beneficial in some way at some point. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is very unlikely that I would have gotten the same exact thing. But you see here, his standard check to defeat this guy is with a 6, a d6, and I need to defeat a 9. So let's see what we have. A light crossbow, probably my favorite one. Now by just revealing, basically saying I'm using my light crossbow, nothing else happens. It goes back into my hand and I add in the extra die. Oh, that's so much better because he's using his dexterity instead of strength to fight this goblin warrior. Therefore, he's got a very high percentage chance of success. And I'm going to actually run with that. I could use a Blessing of the Gods to increase that further, but keep in mind this is also his health pool. I don't want to risk these willy-nilly. So let's roll that. 13, and we defeat that. That is higher than the 9, and the goblin warrior is defeated. Now, I could use this crow to explore the location, but if I discard it, it will then be buried. And I don't know if I really want to bury my crow. I would rather save this guy for another location, perhaps. Maybe he'll help me out there, or if I get injured, I can discard the crow instead. So I could use another Blessing of the Gods, but I think we're just going to continue on to Sela. He doesn't have any cards that he needs to draw, so he just goes to the next one. I did bypass his ability to take a peek at the deck, which I should have done, but hopefully I'll remember to do next time. All right, so we're here. Start of turn actions. She has the ability to examine the top card of the location and check it out. And if it's a boon, it goes to the bottom of the deck, which could be good, could be bad. Right now, we've got 27 turns left. I might as well have a peek. It's going to be a bugbear. All right. So that's good to know. This bugbear has a combat level of 10. And if I don't defeat him, I have to bury a weapon or an item from my discard pile, which I don't have anything in there right now. So that's not too bad. After you have examined a location, you may click the examine button to view the examined card again. So I could view it one more time before committing. But she only has a hand size of 4. So that's kind of iffy, but let's see. Succeeded a wisdom survival check. Undefeated monsters other than villains or henchmen are banished. Oh, this is actually a very good location. So if I attack that guy, I could add in an extra 1d8, and then I could even discard this for an additional 1d4 on top of that. Let's just go for it. I've got a weapon. I've got a possibility of doing some damage here. Let's see. If I reveal this, that's an extra 1d8. And that's going to be 2d8, a total of a possible 16. It's going to be kind of iffy. So let's just reveal it. I don't want to waste that mace, 67%. And let's go over here. She's got so many of these blessings. Let's discard one of those and give Sela an extra d8. All right, there we go. And yes, I forgot to change the die colors from each character. I forgot each character had their own die. But I do have currently her set up with the stone-looking dice here. So we're going to go with this. A very high % chance of destroying this bugbear. And he's down. Not a problem. And he is therefore banished from the scenario. He doesn't get pulled back from a discard pile by accident or something. Now, I could use a Blessing of the Gods to continue, but she doesn't have a very big hand size. So I think she's going to continue on with that. But let's look at this. Recharge this card to add 1d10 to your perception check. Discard this card to explore your location. You know what? Very few things actually use a perception check. I'm going to explore a little bit more. So let's see what else we have. A Goblin Commando. He has a special ability that allows him to deal damage straight away. Oh boy. All right, so this guy, before you act, the goblin deals 1 ranged combat damage to you, which means something in here takes a hit. This is my health pool, remember that. So if he deals 1 damage, that means that I have to deal the 1 damage, or I can recharge this to reduce combat damage dealt to you by 2. So let's recharge this. I get to keep that card instead of it going into the discard pile and me losing a hit point. That armor protected me, and I can continue on. So let's fight this guy. I've got my mace. We're going to reveal this. And I've got a 76% chance with a combat rating of 9. So on 2d6, I need to get a 9. And I also have a +2 because of her abilities normally. So let's do that. 14. He is defeated. All right. And you do little unlocks in here. There's a special daily quest going on that will allow you to unlock more gold, allowing you to unlock cards and so on. You can pay for cards, like I said, but otherwise I'm just having fun with playing without it. And it says here, if you're done exploring, press the end turn button. You'll automatically draw up to your hand size, which she does here. She gained a cure spell as well as, what was it, another blessing of the gods. So we've got Mariciel here. She is going to just straight up explore. What does she get here? At the top of the screen, there's a check drop down panel. If you click it, you can choose which skill you would like to roll. You may find there are times the default skill is not the best option. So therefore, in this case, it says Constitution or Fortitude. If I choose Constitution, I get a D6. If I choose Fortitude, it's a D4. So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But you do have your options at the very least. And this is to obtain this item. This was one of the armors, the only armor, at this location that we found. She gets to keep this in her deck, so effectively increasing her health pool. I have a pretty good chance of obtaining it, and her hand size is not that big at the moment, so let's try rolling it. Let's see what we get. Oh, just made it, because that was a roll of 4. We now have armor, thieves' tools, and a bunch of blessings. You know what? I feel I should use one of these. If I want to just automatically discard this instead of clicking the button, because I know that this will allow me to also... Let's see, where is it? If you encounter this card, discard this card to explore your location. So I could click this button, or I can straight up discard it over here to continue looking around. A troubadour. So this is an ally, somebody that could help you out. I would have to get him on a D12. I could impress him with my acrobatics, my charisma, diplomacy, dexterity, but I'm going to choose acrobatics because I get the highest possible, which is rolling a D12 plus 2. So that's what we're going to go with, and we're going to stick with that. Let's roll it. I got a 5. I did not succeed at that. So he goes away, and we don't lose anything, because I did not commit anything except for a blessing to continue exploring. So we're going to continue on and see what else we get. We're set for fighting this guy here, Jabrail Visky. And the only problem we're going to have is the other locations. Because Harsk is here with Jabrail. She is going to need to pass her Arcana or Intelligence checks. And she is going to need to summon and defeat a bandit henchman. Hopefully, we'll be able to do this. Hopefully. So let's do this here. This might be the very end. The villain, Jabrail Visky. That's right. Loads up a special scenario. I can tell you're all new here, so I'll give you one piece of advice for free. Get out. Leave Sandpoint behind you and no one needs to get hurt. I'll make this offer once. That a fact, I think I'll enjoy this. Wait, that's all you've got to say? Oh, come on. You could have said so much more. Alright, when you encounter the villain, this is what happens. Characters in other locations may temporarily close their locations. Luckily, we've got one on each. Characters must complete the closing requirements for their location, but this will prevent the villain from escaping there. Closing locations to defeat and corner the villain is how you win. So let's hope that that this succeeds. Let's start with her defeating a henchman. We're going to close this location. Yes. She needs to defeat a bandit henchman. If she uses her mace... if she recharges it, you may additionally discard this card to add 1d4. Or this, which is 1d6. Add additional card to this card to add another 1d6. Reveal this card to use your strength or melee skill plus 1d6. You may additionally discard this card to add another 1d6. If not proficient with weapons, the difficulty of this check is increased by 4. Okay. So... I can either do an 1d8 plus 1d4 or 2d6. You know, let's discard the short sword to get extra damage on this guy. Because it does say, summon to defeat on closing. When using a weapon, subtract 1 from each die. Ugh. Let's just do it. Before you act, recharge a card. Oh, I have to recharge a card first. Oh, no. All right. Well, there goes the sword. Which means that she needs to... Oh boy, oh boy. I didn't realize that. I forgot that that was what was required first. But she does have 2 blessings that are going to be used for other characters. Let's discard this and do the extra amounts. 79% chance. And here's the thing. If I view Harsk here, he's going to need to get rid of 2 cards, then use 1 card. So he could feasibly use this to add in an extra 1d4 on another location here, helping her. So let's have him get rid of this plain old flaming mace +1 that isn't going to be any help. And then we're going to go back to her. She's going to roll the die, hopefully take out this bandit. Oh, thank goodness, because if she would have failed, that would have ruined the entire plan. All right, let's close the next location. This one's going to be really difficult. Close location, yes. So she's got a D4 to reach 6. This is where she is going to come in with her blessings. So let's discard this. Here, I'll actually click on it so you can see. To add 1 die to any check. Discard. All right. And then she can't discard anymore. I just realized that. Oh no. So this might be a fail here. I don't know, because there's no more abilities that can be added. You can't use the same blessing. You have to use a different blessing. All right. Well, let's have a 1 in 3 chance. Come on. No! Oh, which means Jabriel's going to get to this location. He's going to escape. I think I think that's it. I think that's it. We cannot defeat him because I'm at the wrong location. For example, if I were to go out to the map, she could move over to his area, but then we can't do anything here. Oh, well, let's have a peek at what's next. It's a pit trap. I feel like I just fell in one myself. All right, well, might as well just do this and discard that to increase her chance of success, which passes, surprisingly. She was wise enough to explore. Can we? No, we can't do anymore. We have to explore again. And it's a bandit. She might have the possibility of closing the location, but that's it. We've run out of time, folks. This is it for today. So before you act, recharge a card. Oh, it's so sad because she only has 1 health left as well. So let's recharge that. Continue on. She gets a short sword, which might help her to defeat this guy. I can't discard any more cards. I think she might die at the end of this. 56% chance. I can't discard these. If she discards these, she dies. Let's hope that this is enough. Oh, it was. It was. She keeps it. Close the location. Summon to defeat a bandit henchman. Guess what we've got to do again, folks? I have to recharge another card, which means she does die. Oh, that's so sad. All right, well, we recharge that. Oh, no, wait. That just goes into here. She gets the short sword. Okay. Reveal that. And she gets the same chance. Again, she has to do it twice. Oh, she got so lucky. All right, she didn't die. She didn't die. She's still got 1 card left. I have to... Oh no, when permanently closed, on closing all characters at this location, discard a card. This is the saddest ending ever. Oh, let's discard the wooden shield, because she's dead. She's got to draw up to 4 cards, and she only has 1 left in her deck. Is this where she gets like a big red X across her face or something? Deck, blessing. Yes, I know that's what's in the deck. Let's click here. Oh no, Sela has fallen. Oh, so sorry, Sela. And there's the end. Oh, so close. But as you can see, folks, your party has run out of time. Pathfinder Adventures. It's a really good game. I enjoy it a lot. It's fun in single player. I believe you can hook up with some other people in multiplayer and they can take control of other heroes. You can still change your decks as well. You can click on the characters to see what they got. Unclaimed goods and stashes and stuff like that. Each character you see here, he keeps some of the items that he earned through the combat, as well as her. It's really entertaining, and I do recommend this game, even if it's not in the PC version. The board game version is very entertaining, and I've also played the role-playing game, which just uses the setting and is absolutely nothing like playing this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If so, be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, spread the mischief to others if you think they'll enjoy this content too. Until next time, folks. I'll see ya.